Most men do not become free when they make more money. They become more expensive to maintain. Their income rises, their lifestyle rises, and the cage gets upgraded. A better car, a better apartment, better clothes, better restaurants, better photos, better signals. Machiavelli would not call this success. He would call it weakness with better decoration. Because when money enters the hands of a man who still needs approval, it does not become leverage, it becomes tribute. Tribute to strangers, tribute to friends who doubted him, tribute to family expectations, tribute to women he wants to impress, tribute to the old version of himself that still wants witnesses. And if you do not understand this, you can double your income and still remain owned. The question is not how much money you make. The question is who controls the man once the money arrives. Because if your impulses control you, more income only gives your impulses a larger army. If shame controls you, more income gives shame a better costume. If comparison controls you, more income gives comparison a louder voice. If approval controls you, more income does not make you powerful. It makes you more useful to the people and systems that know how to flatter your weakness. This is why some men start earning more and still feel hunted. They get promoted, but they do not feel free. They make more money, but they cannot breathe. They upgrade the apartment, but now the apartment owns their courage. They upgrade the car, but now the car decides how much risk they are allowed to take. They upgrade their image, but now the image must be fed every month. From the outside, it looks like progress. Inside, it feels like pressure. That is not wealth. That is dependency wearing a watch. Machiavelli wrote, "A prince who relies entirely upon fortune is ruined when fortune changes." This is not only about kingdoms. It is about your income. If your life only works when everything goes well, you are not free. You are merely lucky. And luck is not a structure. The first illusion is that more money will save a weak man. It will not. More money only reveals the quality of the man receiving it. A man making a small income with no discipline does not automatically become powerful when the income grows. He becomes the same man with more expensive chaos. His numbers change, his nature does not. This is where most men lose, not in the raise, not in the job, not in the market. They lose in the interpretation of income. A man gets his first serious raise. For years he felt invisible. His family doubted him, his friends underestimated him, society ignored him. Rooms did not adjust when he entered. He learned to carry ambition without applause. Then money arrives, and for the first time he can buy signals, a car that makes people look, an apartment that photographs well, restaurants that make him feel chosen, clothes that make him appear like he has arrived. He tells himself, "I deserve this," and maybe he does. But deserving something does not make it strategic. The world does not care what you deserve. It responds to what you control. This is the cold distinction most men never make. Income is supply. Freedom is command. Without command, income becomes fuel for the same impulses that kept the man weak when he was broke. Machiavelli wrote in Discourses on Livy, "For nature has so ordered it that while they desire everything, it is impossible for them to have everything." That sentence explains lifestyle creep better than most finance books. Desire expands faster than income. Before the raise, a man wants comfort. After the raise, he wants recognition. After recognition, he wants superiority. After superiority, he wants insulation from insecurity. The horizon keeps moving. The appetite keeps negotiating. The man tells himself the next level will finally make him calm. But the next level only gives his desire a new battlefield. That is why income alone does not create freedom. Structure does. The wheat man asks, What can I afford now? The strategic man asks, what can I control now? That is the first shift. Income is not permission to consume. Income is territory to govern. And a man who cannot govern new money will be governed by it. Lifestyle creep is not always about comfort. Often, it is obedience to an invisible audience. A man says he wants a better car because he likes cars. Sometimes that is true, but often he wants the car because he remembers being ignored. He wants the apartment because he remembers being underestimated. He wants the clothes because he remembers feeling small. He wants the restaurant because he wants the photo to speak for him. He wants the image to say what his discipline has not yet proven. That is not taste. That is financial submission disguised as personality. Machiavelli wrote, "Everyone sees what you appear to be, few experience what you really are." Most men hear that and become slaves to appearance. The strategic man hears it and becomes careful. Appearance matters, signals matter, presentation matters, but appearance must serve power. It must never replace power. A clean appearance can be strategic. A disciplined presentation can be strategic. A reliable vehicle can be strategic. A better tool for work can be strategic. But status spending becomes weakness when the signal costs more than the substance it is supposed to represent. This is where the millionaire next door remains useful. The public legacy of that book is the contrast between visible consumption and quiet accumulation. Many people who look rich are not building durable wealth. Many actual accumulators live below their means, avoid excessive status display, think long-term, and put structure ahead of applause. That is not glamour, it is power. Because hidden accumulation gives a man options. Visible consumption gives strangers a story, and strangers cannot save you when the payments arrive. Every signal has a maintenance cost. The car has payments. The apartment has rent. The clothes need replacement. The lifestyle needs repetition. The image needs feeding. And soon, the man is not building wealth. He is financing a character. He is paying every month to keep acting like the version of himself he wants others to believe in. This is why looking successful can become more dangerous than being broke. The broke man knows he has a problem. The man performing success often hides the problem from himself. He calls pressure ambition. He calls insecurity standards. He calls approval taste. He calls dependency lifestyle. And because the language sounds respectable, he does not notice the cage getting stronger. If you are the man who is done pretending that visible progress is the same as power, stop upgrading the cage. You already know more income will not save you, but your problem is that your identity still negotiates with approval. If you keep spending to be seen, you will build a life that looks impressive and feels impossible to leave. Inside Patreon, you get exclusive, unfiltered breakdowns on power, discipline, money, and masculine strategy, so you can stop performing strength and start building command. This is not for men who want comfort. It is for men who are ready to become unowned. The decision is yours. But understand this. The approval tax is one of the most expensive taxes in a man's life. No government collects it. No bank records it, but it drains him every month. It appears when he buys the car too early, when he chooses rent, when he buys clothes to perform success, when he takes trips to document status, when he spends on dates and social events to prove generosity, when he upgrades gadgets because the old ones make him feel behind, when he buys luxury before liquidity. The approval tax is dangerous because it disguises itself as taste. But taste without power is often insecurity with better language, and the unsupported man is especially vulnerable to this tax. Because when nobody clapped early, he wants applause later. When nobody believed early, he wants visible proof later. When nobody opened doors, he wants to arrive loudly enough that the doorkeepers feel foolish. This is understandable. But understandable does not mean strategic. A man trying to prove he is no longer poor is still being controlled by poverty. He is still letting the old wounds spend the new money. He is still letting the people who doubted him shape the architecture of his life. The first financial victory of an unsupported man is not a luxury car. It is not a watch. It is not a beautiful apartment. It is the moment he stops needing the world to witness his rise before the foundation is real. The unsupported man must stop trying to prove he is not poor. That is still poverty controlling him. He must build so quietly, so consistently, and so structurally that his proof becomes heavier than other people's opinions. Your first wealth is not money. Your first wealth is the ability to stop obeying the need to impress. And this is where structure begins. Because most men do not need another motivational speech. They need hard lines. They need rules that protect them when emotion becomes persuasive. They need a private constitution for money. Without rules, every mood becomes a financial advisor. Every insecurity becomes a purchase recommendation. Every comparison becomes a command. Every advertisement becomes a doorway into the wallet. Every lonely night becomes a reason to buy relief. Every raise becomes a celebration before it becomes leverage. This is why survival costs must be controlled first. If your survival costs consume your life, your ambition becomes a hostage. Most men think they need more income. But first, they need a smaller cage. High fixed costs make a man obedient. They make him tolerate disrespect. They make him stay in bad jobs. They make him fear risk. They make him delay building. They make him easier to control. A man says he wants freedom, but his rent votes against him. He says he wants to build a business, but his car payment votes against him. He says he wants to walk away from disrespect, but his lifestyle votes against him. He says he wants discipline, but every fixed cost has already spent tomorrow's courage. This is why housing and transportation are usually the largest chains. A man upgrades his apartment too early because he wants to feel like he has arrived. He upgrades his car too early because he wants movement to feel like status. But rent and car payments do not care about his ambition. They collect every month, without emotion, without mercy, without interest in his future. A bad purchase wounds you once. A high fixed cost bleeds you repeatedly. Machiavelli understood that power depends on foundations. In The Prince, he wrote, "The chief foundations of all states, new as well as old or mixed, are good laws and good arms." For a ruler, the foundations were laws and arms. For a modern man, the foundations are structure and skill. A man without financial structure has no laws inside his own kingdom. A man without valuable skill has no arms. He may have income, but he has no defense. So the rule is simple. Cap your survival costs. Housing, transportation, food, utilities, insurance, basic obligations. Keep the machinery of survival under control. The exact number depends on your city, your country, your income, your family, and your reality. But the principle is not negotiable. Do not let survival costs become stronger than your freedom. Because once fixed costs dominate your income, your choice is narrow. And when choice is narrow, power disappears. A budget is not a spreadsheet. It is a political document. It reveals which forces govern you. Look at your expenses and stop asking whether you like them. Ask what they command. Does this apartment command your patience at a job you hate? Does this car command your silence when your boss disrespects you? Does this lifestyle command you to keep earning just to keep pretending? Does this subscription command your attention? Does this habit command your future? The numbers reveal the ruler. The weak man says, I work hard, I deserve comfort. The strategic man says, I will not let comfort purchase my obedience. Comfort is not evil. But comfort bought too early becomes an occupying force. It enters quietly. It calls itself reward. Then it becomes normal. Then it becomes necessary. Then it becomes identity. Then one day the man looks around and realizes his freedom was not stolen, it was financed. Still, even a man with controlled fixed costs can lose power through impulse. Because not all financial sabotage comes from large decisions. Sometimes it comes from small emotional purchases repeated until they become identity. Impulse is fortune entering through the back door. A man sees the sale. The emotion rises, the insecurity speaks, the purchase happens. Then he calls it a decision. It was not a decision, it was an occupation. Machiavelli's concept of fortune is often misunderstood. Fortune is not just luck. It is the unstable force of events. Markets change, people change, desires change, opportunities appear, dangers arrive. But Machiavelli never tells men to worship fortune. He tells them to prepare for it. In The Prince, he wrote, "Fortune is the arbiter of one half of our actions, but she still leaves us to direct the other half. That is the doctrine. You do not control everything, but you are responsible for the half you can control." Impulse spending is what happens when a man surrenders his half. He lets the world enter through mood. He lets the market speak in the voice of desire. He lets insecurity pretend to be taste. He lets fatigue pretend to be need. He lets comparison pretend to be ambition. And once he buys, he protects the purchase with excuses. I needed it. It was a good deal. I work hard. It will help me feel confident. Everybody spends on something. Maybe all of that is true, but truth is not the same as strategy. A weak man uses explanation to protect appetite. A strategic man interrogates appetite before obeying it. That is why the 7-day rule exists. When you want to buy something non-essential, wait 7 days. Not because the object is always wrong, but because emotion must die before judgment can speak. If you still want it after 7 days and it fits your structure, buy it. But if the desire disappears, you have exposed the truth. You did not want the object. You wanted the feeling. You wanted relief. You wanted identity. You wanted status. You wanted escape. You wanted to silence a wound. In The Art of War, Machiavelli wrote, "In war, discipline can do more than fury." Money is not war in the literal sense. But the inner contest has the same shape. Fury is emotion. Discipline is order. A man may feel intense desire and call it certainty, but feeling strongly is not seeing clearly. The 7-day rule lets discipline defeat fury without drama. Use it for new tech. Use it for clothes. Use it for luxury items. Use it for car upgrades. Use it for expensive trips. Use it for furniture bought to impress people who rarely visit. Use it for subscriptions. Use it for courses bought from panic. Use it for anything purchased to repair a mood. During those 7 days, ask one question. Will this build leverage, or does it only signal value? That question separates power from performance. Not every status signal is weakness, but every status signal must be interrogated. This is where many men become stupid in the opposite direction. They hear a message like this and think the answer is to reject all appearance. That is naive. Machiavelli understood appearance better than almost anyone. He wrote, "It is unnecessary for a prince to have all the good qualities I have enumerated, but it is very necessary to appear to have them." This line is dangerous if misunderstood. He is not saying substance is irrelevant. He is saying reality often moves through perception before truth is verified. People respond to signals: confidence, clarity, restraint, dress, speech, proof, reputation, association. Visible discipline. The world often responds to signals before it verifies substance. So the strategic man does not pretend. Appearance does not matter. He refuses to let appearance bankrupt the foundation. There are purchases that build leverage. A reliable laptop for work, clean clothes for presentation, a better microphone for content, a gym membership actually used with discipline, tools for a business, books that sharpen judgment, a course that improves a marketable skill, a modest, reliable vehicle that protects time and mobility. These can be strategic. But then there are purchases that only signal value. Luxury you cannot comfortably afford. A car bought before assets, clothes bought for envy, trips bought for photos, restaurants bought to feel ranked, apartments chosen for validation, brands used as personality. One builds power, the other rents attention. Machiavelli wrote, "Men judge generally more by the eye than by the hand." This does not mean you should become invisible. It means you must make sure every signal is backed by structure. If you look disciplined, be disciplined. If you look successful, have reserves. If you look confident, have competence. If you signal power, make sure there is machinery beneath it. Otherwise, your image becomes a debt. This is why the lesson from the millionaire next door matters again. The point is not that wealthy people must look poor. The point is that visible consumption is often a poor proxy for actual wealth. Quiet accumulation is harder to admire from the outside, but it is much harder to control. A man with reserves can say no. A man with low fixed costs can leave. A man with skills can renegotiate. A man with assets can wait. A man with discipline can survive volatility. The man addicted to lifestyle can only maintain. And maintenance is not power. It is motion without freedom. Fidelity's retirement data from 2026 made the same principle visible in modern form. Reporting on Fidelity data showed that consistent saving behavior and long-term retirement contributions remained major drivers behind retirement account growth, even through market volatility. At the end of the first quarter of 2026, Fidelity counted 645,401 millionaires, down from 665,000 at the end of 2025. That number moved because markets move. But the deeper lesson is not the surface count. The deeper lesson is that consistent structure survives emotional weather better than status spending does. The market can move, but the man with contribution discipline is still building. The man with lifestyle addiction is only maintaining. He may look richer this month, but he is weaker when fortune turns. And fortune always turns. If you are the man who understands that discipline must become a private law, stop calling comfort progress. You already know your income is not the problem, but your real problem is that your lifestyle keeps voting before your strategy speaks. If you keep letting impulse, image, and approval spend your future, you will become the man who earns more but cannot move. Inside Patreon, you get exclusive unfiltered breakdowns on financial command, psychological discipline, and power strategy, so you can turn income into options instead of decoration. This is not for men who want applause. It is for men who want leverage. The decision is yours. Now understand the final battlefield. The real battlefield is not the car, not the apartment, not the clothes, not the restaurants. The real battlefield is identity. A man who needs to look rich is still negotiating with people's opinions. He is still asking strangers to confirm that he has escaped. He is still letting the old shame choose the new costume. He is still using money to heal humiliation. But money is not medicine for humiliation. Money is material. It becomes whatever the man is. If the man is weak, money becomes appetite. If the man is insecure, money becomes approval. If the man is undisciplined, money becomes leakage. If the man is status hungry, money becomes theater. If the man is strategic, money becomes leverage. That is the whole lesson. Stop using money to heal humiliation. Use money to build command. Money should buy time, skill, silence, options, mobility, health, tools, assets, reserves, access, negotiation power, not constant applause, not emotional revenge, not symbolic arrival, not proof for people who were never part of the mission. Machiavelli's worldview gives the modern man a cold financial framework. Appearance matters, but appearance without structure is fragility. Fortune changes, so reserves matter. Men obey immediate needs, so impulse must be governed. Ambition never ends, so desire must be bounded. Discipline beats fury, so systems must defeat moods. Power comes before security because without power, security depends on someone else. This is not cruelty, this is realism. The man you are becoming does not need to look rich. He needs to become unowned. Unowned by approval. Unowned by impulse. Unowned by lifestyle. Unowned by lifestyle. Unowned by rent he cannot sustain. Unowned by payments that force obedience. Unowned by people who only respect visible consumption. Unowned by the old shame that tells him he must prove he has arrived. The unsupported man's first financial victory is not $1 million. It is the day he stops spending like a man who still needs permission to exist. More income is not victory. More income is a test. It tests whether you are still emotionally poor. It tests whether you still need strangers to see you. It tests whether you can delay pleasure. It tests whether you can cap comfort. It tests whether you can turn income into reserves, reserves into options, options into leverage, and leverage into power. The broke man spends because he lacks money. The secretly broke man spends because he lacks identity. That is more dangerous. Because the first man knows he is poor. The second man hides poverty behind upgrades. He upgrades the cage. He upgrades the costume. He upgrades the performance. But he never upgrades the ruler. And without the ruler, the kingdom collapses. So stop upgrading the cage. Build the ruler. No one is coming. Good. That means no one owns your rise. Subscribe if you are done upgrading the cage. Build anyway.